Today's episode of Word Balloon is brought to you by The Comics Canon, the podcast that reads, reviews, and renders judgment on the greatest comic book stories of yesterday and today. Every 2 weeks, experienced journalists and critics Kevin Moreau and Kurt Holman hold in-depth yet accessible discussions on such well-known comics as Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, Civil War, Preacher, The Walking Dead, Fun Home, and more works that have become mass media icons. Also, they discuss popular comics like Saga and landmark events like the Dark Phoenix Saga and the death of Gwen Stacy. Each episode answers the questions: how do these stories hold up? What's their larger impact on comics or pop culture? And do they belong in that Hall of Fame of comic stories known as the Comics Canon? The current episode is on Batman, The Court of Owls, and features special guest Glenn Weldon, NPR contributor, author of Cape Crusade, Batman and the Rise of Nerd Culture, and former Word Balloon guest. Just in time for the new Logan movie, the next episode, which drops on March 1st, will review Wolverine, Old Man Logan. Comics Canon is available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and of course their website, comicscanon.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. We got a great double feature for you today. We're going to start with Kyle Higgins. Kyle, as you know, a great Marvel and DC writer, currently writing Power Rangers for Boom Studios, but also Kyle's a filmmaker, and he has a new short, The Shadow Hours, that is a proof of concept short that not only does he hope to make into a full feature film, but the short itself will be running in a Chicago Film Festival coming up at the beginning of March. We talked to Kyle about The Shadow Hours in our last Word Balloon conversation just 2 months ago, and he's back because of this festival that's coming up in Chicago, and he wanted to let the Chicago Word Balloon listeners know about it. Beyond that, the short is hitting the film festival tour, and he gives us some other dates and locations where you can see The Shadow Hours. And for more information, you can contact the Shadow Hours Facebook page or go on their website. It's a great chance to catch up with Kyle and really just look at where short films are, and especially with the Oscars coming up in just under a week. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about filmmakers and their struggles as they try to get noticed and get the big jobs. So, great short conversation with Kyle Higgins to start things off on Word Balloon. Then we turn our focus to Ben Blacker. Now, Ben Blacker and Ben Acker have been a writing team for quite some time. They used to write on the television shows Supernatural and Super Ninja. They also are behind, Ben is at least, Blacker is behind two great podcasts from the Nerdist Network. There is the Nerdist Writers Panel and the Nerdist Comics Writers Panel. And both are excellent programs, and I've had Ben on the show before. I've also had his co-host on many times, Heath Corson. Ben is black because he's got a great new book that he is writing for Boom, along with writing partner Ben Acker and a third writer, Andrew Miller. All three together are writing a great Western for Boom called Death Be Damned. 4-part story. We're in the midst of that story right now. And it's great to catch up with Ben. Gives me an opportunity to talk about what's been going on TV recently. We got a couple new television shows already mid-season that have debuted, shows like Powerless and Legion. And it's great to get Ben's point of view on those and other things as well. So I think it's a great double feature for you. Kyle Higgins and Ben Blacker on today's Word Balloon. Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you, League, for your support. Man, I'll tell you, every week, a couple more people are coming on and becoming new League of Word Balloon listeners, subscribers to Word Balloon via Patreon. Some existing members of the League are upping their subscriptions from $1 to $3 or $3 to $5. Thank you truly for your support. It really does mean a lot. It makes it easier to produce the show and make the adjustments that are necessary to give you the best possible Word Balloon podcast, and also go to the conventions and book new people and bring you new conversations each week here on Word Balloon. So thank you very much, League of Word Balloon listeners. If you want to be part of the League, if you think what I do here is worth the price of a comic book, can you spare that much? If you go to wordballoon.com, you can click on the Patreon ad there, or go directly to Patreon, Patreon.com/wordballoon, and that's where the subscription page is. Thank you very much, League of Word Balloon listeners. It's also brought to you by InStock Trades at InStockTrades.com, and there's some great deals going on. I can't believe Rick Remender and Jerome Pena's 7 to Eternity is already out in trade paperback, but the first 4 issues are collected, and it's a hell of a deal, man. 42% off, just $5.79 for that new sci-fi epic. You can get Deadpool and the Secret Defenders. This is 42% off from Marvel, $17.39. They reached back at DC for a collection of Batman and the Outsiders, that excellent series from Mike Barr and Jim Aparo, where Batman split off from the Justice League and started his own group back in the 80s. 50% off for Volume 1. It is $24.99. You can also get War of Kings Aftermath. The Marvel Cosmic at its best with Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning and lots of great artists. This is an excellent collection of the War of Kings Aftermath, the Realm of Kings omnibus. It is 50% off, just $62.50. You can get Future Quest from Doc Shaner and Jeff Parker. Goodness, what a great book. Yes, I said goodness. Because it is. It's some of the Hanna-Barbera heroes at their best, looking the way they should because of the way Evan Shaner drew it. And I know that Jeff Parker was a Saturday morning warrior just like me growing up, and he knows these characters. It's an excellent story. Future Quest, you can get the. It's gonna be a finite series. Volume 1 though, issues 1 through 6, even featuring some great work from guys like Steve Root as well in that. 50% off for Volume 1. It's $8.49 from InStockTrades.com. Don't forget, orders $50, receive free shipping from InStockTrades.com. All right, let's turn our attention now to Kyle Higgins and short films. Kyle is a movie buff. He's a younger movie buff, so it's interesting to hear the movies that he discovers. Things, again, sadly, that because of our age difference, I remember seeing in the movie theater. But when I think about some of these movies, as you'll hear, it's like, yeah, that's a 32-year-old movie. That counts as an old movie these days. It's very interesting. Even Leonard Maltin on his podcast was talking about movies that are new classics, modern classics. And again, because of time, even a film like Back to the Future has to be thought about, given that it's 32 years old, as a possible modern classic. And by the way, I would say yes, of course it is. So let's hear Kyle Higgins, but primarily here to talk about The Shadow Hours that's appearing in a film festival here in Chicago coming up at the beginning of March, and a few more locations as well in the weeks and months ahead. So happy to check in with Kyle Higgins about The Shadow Hours now on Word Balloon.
I'm kind of on a Paul Newman kick right now. I just watched The Color of Money for the first time.
Really?
I'm in Brian Bucciolato's apartment right now, and I'm like gauging his reaction as I said that.
My best to Butch, I am interested in his response as well.
Nothing surprises him anymore because there's so much shit I haven't seen.
Well,
but
and of all the
Newman, fucking great.
Oh, it is. You know something? It is a good movie. But I got to be honest. I'm kind of a snob. I'm like, it's a really good '80s movie. Scorsese as well, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, again, I really like. I was expecting HUD, or Drowning Pool, something, whatever.
Well, I went back and I'm like watching The Hustler now because I'd never seen. I think I've seen The Hustler.
That's the order you're going in.
I know I'm doing it reverse. I know
you're doing it reverse.
I think I've seen The Hustler when I was a kid. There's a lot of it that's familiar.
Okay.
But yeah, it's cool. I kind of like watching it in reverse. It's fun. But anyway, yeah. So
I'm leaving this part in because if it's okay, if the Paul Newman talk is okay.
Yeah, totally.
All right, good, because this is a good lead into more movie talk that we're about to have with Kyle Higgins, who rejoins us on Word Balloon. And you know me, I love old movies, so I'm really happy to hear when you guys are looking at stuff. And I mean, God, Color of Money, now that I think about it, it's a 32-year-old movie. Something like that, right? 85? 87?
Brian, when was it? Was it 85?
What, Color of Money?
Yeah.
I'm going to say...
You can hear him.
He said, no. It is 88?
Is that what he said?
He said 88.
Something like that. All right. We got the internet right here, so while we're talking, we can look it up.
86.
Oh, did you already look it up? 86.
He looked at it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was all right. We're in the ballpark.
I'm surprised you didn't know that. Marty's his guy.
I respect it. Yeah, but we were in a couple of years, within a couple of years, so we're doing all right.
Yeah, my parents got me for. Well, first of all, thank you for having me back.
It's always a pleasure.
There's a reason for this talk, obviously.
Yes,
but,
indeed. We're gonna get to it.
My parents got me for Christmas this year. I think the last time I was on, I was still back in Chicago. Yeah, I was still back in Chicago.
Yeah,
so this marks our first conversation where I'm not in the state of Illinois during it, which is very exciting.
All right.
But shortly after we talked for Christmas, my parents got me a subscription to Filmstruck, which is this new app that I've been very excited about for months, and it finally launched. And so they got me the subscription. And it's the Criterion Collection and Turner Classic Movies launched this app together. So it's like the exclusive digital home for the Criterion Collection, and then Turner Classic Movies curates all the films on the app as well, including the Criterion films. So it's really exciting. The only downside right now is that it hasn't launched for Roku yet. So I can't actually I'm using Brian Buccellato's Apple TV, a spare one he has, but it's not new enough to actually download apps. It's just whatever apps are. I haven't told you this yet, but it's whatever apps come pre-installed. So I can AirPlay Criterion movies from my phone or from a computer, which is better than nothing obviously.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to being able to get it on the Roku and actually
Oh God, I hope that happens. Because
do it properly.
Yeah, man. I mean, I have the Warner Archive app.
Oh yeah,
and that has a lot of cool old movies. Now for Criterion, does it have also the commentaries and the bonus documentaries and stuff? Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah, it's like streaming a special features disc.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea.
I'm really worried, especially after I talked to Rob Meyer-Burnett, who beyond doing the occasional TV directing, and he made Free Enterprise, the Trek fan movie that was Shatner back in '99, and he's with those.
Mm-hmm.
He did a little bit with the Accent Art people. He, I don't know if you know the name, but he does a lot of bonus features for DVDs. Did it for the X-Men movies. Did it for Superman Returns, which is amazing and funny.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Ring films, he worked on those, and a lot of Star Trek bonus feature stuff. And he was, being in the business and stuff. He's like, I don't know how much longer. Studios are going to invest in those kind of bonus features anymore. I don't know. I don't know what you
That's
hear.
a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know either. I have a couple friends who worked in that on that side of things, but I haven't talked to them in a while. One of my friends worked for New Wave, which they were hot for a little while, doing a lot of that stuff. The whole physical media kind of side of things obviously is changing a lot. That said, I just read an article somewhere recently because I ended up getting in my new place. I bought an IKEA bed so I could afford the 65-inch 4K HDR set that I wanted, right? Because priorities, John.
Liefeld just did the same thing. He upgraded. Everybody's upgrading. It's all right.
Yeah. But no, I have a UHD player now because I'm like Mr. Physical Media. I turned one of the closets in my new apartment into my Blu-ray collection, complete with puck lighting and everything. So I have this player now to do 4K HDR movies, and just. My big thing about 4K for a long time has been I didn't understand the point, especially since everything is shifting to downloadable and streaming content. The compression alone defeats the purpose of doing something at a higher resolution, where you're still introducing artifacting, and the compression just isn't there yet, and the bandwidth isn't there yet. And physical media will still kind of blow that out of the water. And basically this article I was reading was talking about the uptick in physical media sales with the 4K, the UHD discs that are starting to come out. And like the jump from, they were saying something about the sales jump from Blu-ray to UHD has been much bigger than DVD to Blu-ray. Like they've seen much bigger sales numbers.
Wow.
Which is weird to think about,
yes.
But as far as like taking full advantage of format, I mean, yeah, you're not going to get much better than you're not going to get better than the disc format for something like this, at least not in the foreseeable future until like Google Fiber takes over the world.
Right.
Or something. Because even the stuff I watch in 4K on Netflix or Amazon Prime and the stuff that's HDR on Netflix doesn't look nearly as good as it does in disc format.
In a physical disc, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so weird because, yeah, man, even during Blu-rays, especially early on, I'm like, God damn, fuck you. How many times do I have to rebuy this movie?
Right.
You know, and again, yeah, I'm just like you and everything, you know, total movie hog. I would totally do that with one of my closets and trick it out for all my physical video and stuff. Because
it's great, John, let me tell you.
That's a great idea, man. You got me envious. That would be fun, and I could do it. I got the space.
You should.
Yeah, good idea. Well, anyway, I do want to give you the opportunity to talk about what you came on to talk about, and that is your movie is having its theatrical debut in Chicago. Tell us about it. Coming up?
Yeah. So it's coming up in March. It's actually it's March 4th. And the last time I was on the show, I know we talked for quite a while about it. It's called The Shadow Hours. Mm-hmm. And it's an 18-minute kind of neo-noir thriller that I wrote and directed about two identical twins who have this condition where only one can be awake at a time. And they actually pose as one person. Each one is only awake for half of a day. And they like record audio messages for each other so that the other one always knows what they supposedly did. And they work as a private investigator. And then there's this kind of budding romance that enters the picture, and the one wants out, but it's complicated. And, you know, I won't say hilarity ensues, but
complications ensue.
Complications definitely ensue. So I put it together last year, and we have started kind of doing a festival run for it. And the next screening coming up is as a part of the 5th annual Juggernaut Film Festival. It's a kind of I think it's a sci-fi oriented festival in Chicago, and they're holding it at the Music Box Theater out on Southport on the north side.
Yep.
And so, it'll be Saturday, March 4th. I think there are screenings all day, and then there are going to be panels and like Q&As and stuff like that. Shadow Hours is going to screen around 5:30, is my understanding, and I'm bringing the DCPs for the film. So we'll have a 2K and a 4K version.
Wow. With
killer 5.1 sound. I'm not sure if the Music Box can project 4K, but if they can't, the 2K one looks really great as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I could not think of a better venue for first screening in Chicago, and the feature that I'm writing based on the short all takes place in Chicago. Awesome. So it's kind of a cool warm up. Feels like for the property in general.
That's excellent, man. No, I was excited to hear about it when you mentioned it back in December, and it's great that it's going to be here in Chicago. Yeah, man, it's really close to my neighborhood. If people want to learn more, you can go to filmfreeway.com/festival/Juggernaut Film Festival. They also have a Facebook page that describes the full event.
You can do that. You can also go to theshadow-hours.com. There's a ton of material on the film there, but also there's a screening section, and on the main page, if you scroll down, it shows upcoming screenings. and all the information as well as where you can buy tickets. I think tickets are $20 for the whole festival for the day.
Yeah, and it's
is all there.
Several hours, and and it's like Kyle just said, it's all day. If you want,
and there's a bar. Like if you haven't been to the Music Box before, there's a bar as a part of the old theater. Like it's just a great venue. Like it's a really cool setup.
It is one of the older Chicago theaters, and it has retained a lot of the aesthetics that made old movie houses great. On the weekends, they have a live organist come in, so there's a likelihood, I would think, before the festival starts that there will be an organ player there. And maybe between films and stuff like that, depending on how quickly they can get the next thing ready.
And I went to the theater for the first time actually when I was very soon after you and I spoke last, when I was back in Illinois and Chicago for those couple months at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. And I went with my buddy Joe Clark, who you've met.
Yes,
the jazz composer. Who did all the Cowl Sessions album for our book Cowl, and he scored stuff of mine before. And so he took me there to watch a 35 millimeter print of Die Hard, and it was awesome. And so Joe will be at the festival as well.
Fantastic.
And actually, there are some pieces of his that are in the Shadow Hours as source music.
Terrific.
Bear McCreary did the score for the Shadow Hours, but there are a couple jazz needle drops in the film, and I think one of the tracks is actually from the Cowl Sessions. I think I pulled.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's all in the family.
Absolutely, no, that's really great. That's cool. No, Joe's a lot of fun. We ate at Kuma's, and watched Incredible Hulk episodes with the sound down. It was
that's right. I forgot about that.
Which is also right in my neighborhood. So no, that's great, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Shadow Hours at the Music Box on March 4th. That's wonderful. Very, very cool.
Yeah. So I appreciate you having me on to plug it and whatnot. And it's not a comic, but it's comic related. And the poster the poster was illustrated by Trevor McCarthy. My Gates of Gotham brother.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So,
very cool.
Yeah. So it is very comic centric. It's funny. Okay. It's funny. I've gotten I've had some meetings out here in LA where I'll go in and someone has seen the movie and they go, "Oh yeah, it really feels like every frame is like a graphic novel," And I try not to roll my eyes because it's like, well, you're saying that because I write comics for a living. Fuck you. There's no, it doesn't. It looks like a movie,
I understand.
But yeah, I guess, I don't know. Maybe I'm blind to
maybe you're too close to
the comic influences. I guess. No, Brian's sitting in the background saying they're wrong.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. No, man, it's exciting, and hey, man, you and Book. Honestly, I look forward to as your film and screenwriting careers and filmmaking careers progress. And I think you guys know what you're doing, and it's the right connection will happen, and that's good. I can honestly say I knew you when, and you'll keep coming back to Word Balloon, like Loeb still comes back and Bendis still comes back, and we'll talk about the evolution.
This is like the highlight of my. This is definitely the highlight of my week. I'll say that.
You're a good man.
But yeah, I want to come back and I want to shoot in the city. That's my intention.
Good.
So we can do episodes from the set.
There you go. Hey man, and also, or I could play a bartender. I could be a little cameo, a bouncer at a bar, or something like that.
Oh, you're in the feature. Yeah, no, it's already. That's already been established.
Excellent. I'll be like in when Fred Flintstone has a cameo on one episode and they're in Hawaii. Yeah, you get to say, "Please pass the poi." I'm like, all right. That'll be fine. I'll take that. Oh, man. No, that's cool. Have fun. And, again, Shadow Hours, March 4th, Saturday, Music Box Theater in Chicago. And look for their Facebook page. Go to shadowhours.com. What other cities are coming up after Chicago? Kyle? Or is there anything in between or before?
There are. Well, it's and just to clarify, it's theshadowhours.com.
Thank you.
Because I think Shadow Hours was something else.
It's a porn.
But hopefully not a movie. Yeah, other cities we've got New Mexico coming up after, and then we have Beverly Hills out here in LA, and then there are I don't think the others have been announced yet, but there are some other festivals that we got into. But we have like a list of we submitted to like 60, I want to say, and we're waiting to hear back from like 40. So like the way that whole kind of scene works is that you basically are submitting like months and months and months and months and months in advance, and then the notification dates kind of all just start to pile up on you. So like I submitted everything last summer and in the fall, which means that now I'm starting to get all the notifications, whether, we're going to screen or not. And I think I'm like from now until I want to say like October, November, like we should be hearing from like 4 a month. Wow. So it should be like a steady stream of, and we could get turned down from all of them, obviously. But, sure. You hope it's such a saturated saturated kind of field. I had no idea when I started submitting, and I think the first festival we got into was Holly Shorts, which is a big festival out here in LA. And it was so much fun, but I was like talking to a bunch of other filmmakers there going like, what should I expect? Like how many, they're like, you're going to basically festivals you think you're going to get into are going to say no. And then you're going to randomly get into ones that you thought you had no shot at. And then it's going to go dark for like 4 months. And then you'll get a second, kind of a second wind. The film will get a second wind and like go on a secondary run. And, yeah, I mean, so far they've been right. But it's cool. Like there's nothing like screening something that you're really proud of for an audience. And, I've never done that before with any of the other things that I've made. So this has been, even just the few screenings we've done of Shadow Hours has been just like a really, really fantastic and kind of inspiring experience for me. So,
have you had any Q&As or anything like that, or
a couple? Yeah. We did. We did hold like kind of a premiere, quote unquote, actually a year ago, almost to the day, that my agency out here put on UTA in their screening room. And that was a lot of fun, and they catered it afterwards, and
nice.
And so there was it was just a really nice evening and a great way to show the movie for the first time. And so we did a little Q&A with that. Oh, actually, no, we didn't. I mean, we just talked. Everyone, it was an open bar. We all just talked.
Well, that helps.
Afterwards.
Right.
But then Holly Shorts, there was a Q&A. And we'll be doing one in Chicago at the Music Box. But the Holly Shorts one was a lot of fun because that was the first time I sat in an audience that wasn't people who worked on the movie and or friends and family. Mm-hmm. And so to just kind of gauge like reactions and if people are following some of the turns, and just it was a really cool experience. And it was I liked it. It was a lot of fun. So,
no, that's cool, man.
And then the second festival it played at was in San Francisco, and I was back in Chicago for it, but it actually won. It won the Best Thriller award. So unfortunately, of all the festivals for me to miss, that would have been the one to be at.
No, I understand. Well, is there a blog or podcast culture around shorts like this, or is it just the usual people that are still covering, regular length films and everything, and there are, some of them are smart enough to get in on this avenue as well.
I don't think there is, or if there is, I don't know of it, or I'm just not aware. There's not really a market for short films in any kind of way, shape, or form, other than stuff like this, like playing at festivals.
Sure.
For a while, some friends and I were toying around with the idea of almost like creating an anthology brand, and trying to, pitch that to a kind of a VOD network where you're essentially creating. It's almost like kind of a Black Mirror kind of format, but in shorter, more like 20-minute, essentially short films.
Right.
And
why not? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we talk about once in a while. But because beyond that, like it's a really fun medium. But it's also like impossible to really do anything or to monetize a short film after you make it. So,
right.
I made the Shadow Hours, like I said, is kind of a proof of concept for this feature. It totally works on its own, but it really is also designed. When you see it, you'll know what I mean. Like, it's really kind of designed as a I could see what the longer version of that, could be.
Sure.
Piece. So yeah, I mean, there is some press that I know, like at this Juggernaut Festival, the site Cinema Jaw is going to be doing a bunch of interviews, and they have a big podcast that's been going for years.
I know Cinema Jaw. I know those guys. Another Chicago podcast.
Yeah. So they'll be there, and I'm guessing I'll talk to them.
Sure.
But also, like when we did the premiere with Howley Shorts, it coincided with the release of Hadrian's Wall, and so we actually kind of double dipped a little bit with all the press outlets for Hadrian's Wall, talking about the Shadow Hours and the screening that was coming up, and that actually worked out really well. But cool. But if we didn't have that, I don't know that there would have been, press attention on on a short film playing in LA. So
no, I understand, man. Well, no, and I just, like you said, where do these movies go after they're made? And a lot of times it is, like you said, it's a proof of concept, or I don't even know, some of the other reasons. Well, and I guess to not only proof of concept, but also maybe proof of skill, in terms of
that's a big aspect of it. It's harder now than it used to be to get a feature off of a short film, like as a director. At least that's what people tell me. I mean, I don't know from personal experience, but I know that like when I made The League, that's what opened all the doors for me, and that was 2008, 2009, where there were real serious talks about what my first feature was going to be as a director, and the fact that I was 23 and had one big short film under my belt didn't seem to be an issue, whereas now, and maybe it's kind of the proliferation of cameras and ease of shooting and the amount of material and content that is out there, but you don't see as many short film creators making that jump to directing features as we kind of did 5-6 years ago. Sure. But I could be wrong. I could just be totally out of touch, and I'm just not noticing it. But the notable one, though, that does come to mind is like Damien Chazelle, who wrote Whiplash and then got J.K. Simmons attached, and I think Miles Teller attached after J.K. Simmons. And I think they had some funding, but they didn't have all of it. And so they went and shot like the first 7 minutes of the movie as a short film, and then brought that to Sundance and sold the property to secure the funding so that they could go make the feature.
Sure.
And I remember reading about it because it was like a big rights thing where the script couldn't be nominated. It wasn't nominated for Best Original Screenplay. It was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Sure, because of 7 minutes.
Yeah, even though the feature screenplay way predated the short film. Like, he made a short film based on the feature screenplay. They still said, the Academy still said, it's Best Adapted only.
Well, because it's what screened first, obviously.
Yeah.
And I understand, but yeah, I know. Isn't it, man, that or, something like will show on Netflix simultaneously with theaters, and that'll fuck them up with an Academy nomination.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So I'm sure you're going to... Who's at your Oscar party? Is it Bucolato? Who do you guys have?
Yeah, we'll probably... Are we watching the Oscars this year?
Or is it like a jaded thing where you're like, yeah, fuck the Oscars?
No, we did. Well, last year, Alec Siegel came over to me and my ex's place, and okay. I think there were one or two other people that came, and we watched them, and it was a lot of fun because, she's a production designer, and Alec sees everything, and I see a lot of stuff, and so we all had kind of our categories that we knew a lot about and had seen all of the films. And actually, last year my ex and I went to a lot of early screenings because she's in the Art Directors Guild. So we saw all of the award films, and so that was a lot of fun.
That's a nice
this year I've seen.
That's very cool.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think I saw The Revenant on like a 4K laser projector at Sony, and it was just like ridiculously good looking. It didn't help the story, but it was one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I am. It's so funny. At dinner tonight, me and a movie buff were talking, and I'm like, yeah, not a Reverend fan. Got to be honest, man. I respect the director. I respect everyone involved. It's just not my kind of movie. I'm not a big wilderness movie. I don't care what the stakes are.
Yeah. Well, this is a way longer conversation, but this year I have seen nothing.
Neither have I.
I've seen
God, I'm so
nothing.
glad you said that. I haven't seen La La Land yet.
I haven't either.
I have a feeling, much like The Artist a couple of years ago, it's going to probably run roughshod, but over everything, and that's without seeing it. But,
yeah, it's interesting because I know all my friends have seen it, and some people absolutely love it, and then I feel like I'll run into somebody, and they'll make some offhand comment. They'll be like, "Well, none of us liked La La Land," and so I don't know what I'm in store for with this movie.
Are you going to try and see it before the...
Yeah, I think I will, yeah.
I got to use the time. The one that I really want to see, and I'm interested in what your thoughts are on some of these movies, I really want to see the Michael Keaton movie, The Owner, about Ray Kroc, the McDonald's.
Yeah, I will see anything that Michael Keaton is in.
I agree. Well, and also, and again, you're a South suburb Chicago guy. I grew up on the North Side, and in Park Ridge, Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
Either Des Plaines or Park Ridge, Illinois, they have a mock-up of what the old McDonald's stands used to look like.
Oh,
and
cool.
It's great, and it's so small. It literally is like this stand where, maybe there was somebody working the grill and two front guys, and that was pretty much it. And, of course, being my age, I do very vaguely remember seeing McDonald's like that before they really started to explode in the 70s. And so it's very nostalgic for me too, from the curiosity and also the real story. I mean, it's just it's not a whole happy business story. There's definitely some warts on that story, and I'm really interested in seeing how they pull it off.
Yeah, no, that's high on my list.
Very cool, excellent.
Awesome.
All right, let Bucolato know that I'll be talking to him very soon. I'm saying this on the air, but I was going to do it after the conversation, but I may as well make it official because we're long overdue with all he's been writing. Everything's going good with Power Rangers?
Yeah, Power Rangers is great. Issue 12 just came out yesterday, actually, and
as we're recording, very cool.
Yeah, and it got into some really cool alt future stories. Actually, it was the character we created, the Lord Draken, who was basically Tommy Oliver had he never left Rita's side, and how the world would, what would happen, what could have happened to the world as a result. This last issue details just that. It goes through basically how Rita and Draken conquered Earth, essentially, and it's not what you might think it is. All I'll say is that I wrote it 3 days after the election. So take that for what you will, for what it's worth. The idea of authoritarians and moon witches maybe having something in common, I don't know. But it's an issue I'm really proud of, and that one just came out. Hadrian's Wall issue 5 is out next month.
Excellent.
And then I think they announced that I'm doing some stuff at Dynamite too. I'm reinventing Magnus. Magnus robot fighter. But I'm doing something very, very different.
With Magnus.
Well,
okay.
No. I'm doing something very different for the character as well.
Okay. Interesting.
So, but I don't know what's out in the world yet about that project. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah, but I'm sure we'll end up talking about that one in the not too distant future. And there's actually something else that's going to be announced that I'm really excited about that I've been working on for a long time.
You going? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, am I cutting out?
No, you're cool.
Oh, no, I was just going to say there's something else that's going to be announced very soon here that I've been working on for a long time. And that'll be one that I would imagine you may want to catch up on. We may want to touch base on, I should say. So
awesome! No, that's great, man. And Emerald City, anything coming up?
No, I'll be in Chicago for the screening.
I understand. Beautiful.
It's the same weekend.
It is the same. All right, I didn't realize it was the same weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to Salt Lake in March. That's my next con.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I hear that's a good one.
Show. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, honestly. Never been to that part of the country, so I'm really looking forward to it. So,
cool.
As I am for March 4th for the Shadow Hours. And again, theshadowhours.com. Go to the website. Look for future screenings. But if you're around the Chicago area, come see Kyle. Come see me. Come see the Cinema Jaw guys. And we'll all be there enjoying the festival and looking forward to the Shadow Hours. So nice going, Kyle. I'm excited to see it, and I'm always happy to see you. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Today's episode of Word Balloon is brought to you by The Comics Canon, the podcast that reads, reviews, and renders judgment on the greatest comic book stories of yesterday and today. Every 2 weeks, experienced journalists and critics Kevin Moreau and Kurt Holman hold in-depth yet accessible discussions on such well-known comics as Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, Civil War, Preacher, The Walking Dead, Fun Home, and more works that have become mass media icons. Also, they discuss popular comics like Saga and landmark events like the Dark Phoenix Saga and the death of Gwen Stacy. Each episode answers the questions: how do these stories hold up? What's their larger impact on comics or pop culture? And do they belong in that Hall of Fame of comic stories known as the Comics Canon? The current episode is on Batman, the Court of Owls, and features special guest Glenn Weldon, NPR contributor, author of Cape Crusade, Batman and the Rise of Nerd Culture, and former Word Balloon guest. It just in time for the new Logan movie. The next episode, which drops on March 1st, will review Wolverine, Old Man Logan. Comics Canon is available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and of course their website, comicscanon.com. Right now we're going to switch gears and give you part 2 of our Word Balloon podcast with Ben Blacker. Ben is back. You know him from the Nerdist Writers Panel, the Nerdist Comics Writers Panel as well. Excellent shows, excellent podcasts, and Ben talks about the ATX Festival. It's good timing because on the Nerdist Writers Panel, he has a couple recent discussions that happened at the ATX convention, a great convention revolving around television. And we are going to talk about the world of television, but also the primary reason that Ben wanted to come on was to talk about his new boom western, that he is doing with Ben Blacker and Andrew Miller, and it's drawn by Hannah Christensen. It's called Death Be Damned. It's a Western, and it's pretty cool. I'll let Ben give us the details on this portion of Word Balloon. I've been talking to Heath Corson, as everyone knows, for a long time, after initially having conversations with Ben Blacker, and it's been far too long since Ben has been back on Word Balloon, but we're rectifying that right now. Welcome back to Word Balloon, Ben Blacker.
Thank you, John. I'm thrilled to be back, and I'm listening all the time.
So really? That's nice, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. I feel like yours is kind of the only legit comic book podcast out there. And I say this as someone with a comic book podcast.
Well, I would include yours, absolutely. Now give me, because it used to be the Nerdist Writers Panel Comics Edition, and now it is...
Now it is just the Nerdist Comics Panel.
Nerdist Comics Panel, very nice.
Heath and I, we kind of reworked it last year after not doing it for a while, and Heath and I co-host it, and we have guests. We put it out twice a month because that is all our schedules allow. But, it rolls on, and people can find it at Nerdist Comics Panel on iTunes and on the Nerdist site and stuff.
Trevor Roth is your most recent guest as I'm looking at it. Is that right?
Yes, Heath just did that one. I think Trevor Roth is one of the Roddenberry Entertainment guys, and they got in touch with us about talking about the stuff they're up to, and, it was an interesting conversation.
Oh, that's cool.
We'll have some more coming up. I think we're putting one out next week or I guess this week, the week this podcast comes out, with that's all about Birds of Prey that our pal Julie Benson did at one of the cons she was at last year. She's been like a contributor to the podcast. Are you reading Birds of Prey, by the way?
Of course. I've had Julie and Shauna on the show, and heard Julie on a couple episodes of your show as well. And they're doing great.
Their book is so good.
Yeah,
the book is so good.
No question, man. Yeah, I'm quite the fan. So I'm very happy for them. So I'm here. I want to make sure that we are recording. Okay. Excellent. Okay, we are. That's good. All the settings seem to be working now. Jesus, unbelievable, man. This is like the uncut. These are the scenes that were on the cutting room floor between Don Amici and Henry Fonda in the story of Alexander Graham Bell. It's before they finally connected. No, not yet. I'm not getting you, Mr. Bell.
Remember when they tried to Skype first?
Have you ever seen that movie? Do you know that movie?
I know that movie. Have I seen it? If I have, it hasn't been for 25 years.
I understand. He gets acid on his pants and everything while he's making the call. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God.
It's just like more modern day Skype people now get coffee on their lap or whatever. He got acid on his lap.
Exactly.
So, But you and Ben Acker have been incredibly prolific, and are just cranking out comics all the time. And you've got a new comic, and you have a third writer, and this is through Boom Studios, and and it's Death Be Damned.
Death Be Damned is the new book. It's funny. Like I feel like we've been putting out a lot of stuff, but I've never felt less prolific because when we were doing Thrilling Adventure Hour, we were churning out, an 80-page script every month.
This is true.
We don't have to do that anymore, so everything feels very reasonable these days.
Well, tell me about the first. Let's give everybody the elevator pitch on Death Be Damned, an interesting Western with a twist.
Yes, Death Be Damned is a revenge story in the Old West. It's about a woman whose family is killed by 7 gunmen, and she literally cannot die until she gets her revenge on them. Along the way, she encounters a undertaker who has sort of made death his study and his business, and he has his own reasons for wanting to communicate with the other side. It's a 4-issue miniseries from Boom. It's all very reasonable. We've got really cool art from Hannah Christensen, who it's this kind of interesting, rough-looking. It feels like I feel like a Western ought to feel.
It looks great. And no, I really did enjoy the first issue.
Thanks.
Absolutely, man. No, it looks cool, and it's I'm glad that there are more westerns out there with female protagonists. I think that's great, and I do think that this is a very cool, like you say, revenge story. And there's a little bit of supernatural things going on in here, and obviously I'm sure we'll learn more as the book develops. You've got a third writer on the book as well, though, and tell me.
We do.
Yeah.
We teamed with our friend Andrew Miller, who was a television writer. Andrew co-created The Secret Circle on the CW a few years ago, and he's working on a bunch of shows now. But one of the most exciting one is the Tremors TV show.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's sort of quietly rolling on. It was announced, probably over a year ago, but it's still trucking, and we'll find out if it's actually going to series.
Oh, okay.
But Andrew's been a friend. Yeah, Andrew's been a friend of ours for a while, and we know he's a comic book guy. It all sort of came about because this was a story I wanted to tell for a long time, and we sort of pitched it to our reps as a TV show. And in my head then it was X-Files plus The Fugitive in the Old West.
Okay.
I still think is a good pitch for a TV show.
Sure.
And our rep said, yeah, we can't really sell a Western, sorry. But as I say, it was a story that I felt compelled to tell, and I knew what it was. So I just kind of wrote the script in some of the free time that we had in 2015, I think. And then gave it to Ben, and he had some great feedback, and we worked together on it. And then, Andrew was, like I said, a friend of ours, and he's a writer that I respect and a guy that I like quite a bit. So I sent it to him just to get his thoughts. And he had great feedback, the biggest of which was that he suggested every time Miranda, our lead character, dies, she should lose her memory a little bit. So the reason that she's seeking revenge starts to sort of slip away from her the more she tries to seek revenge, which was such an interesting hook to me. And it was around that time that someone said, why don't you guys make this a comic book? And Andrew had been wanting to get into comics, and Ben and I sort of knew the world, and we had been talking to Boom about doing something with them. We had a good experience with the Thrilling Adventure Hour book, the anthology book back in 2013 with them, so we had been looking for something new to do. So it all kind of came together after that. Boom pitched us Hannah, and we responded immediately. We thought she was the perfect person for the job. The colorist, I cannot say enough about.
Is that Konstantin Tarasov?
It's Juan.
Oh,
it is a name I had never encountered before. Juan Useche.
Well, he did a hell of a job. That's it. No, it's beautifully colored.
He really did. It impressed me so much. It's beautifully colored, using sort of the palette of John Ford color westerns, but in this really interesting kind of spooky horror way. Look, horror and westerns are my two favorite genres, so it was inevitable that I would try to put them together.
That's interesting. I appreciate the observation, the John Ford observation, because I've been up and down his westerns for a long time, and even more recently in the last month or two. Thank God for Encore Western.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what have you watched recently?
Well, Searchers was on again, I'd say, within the last couple weeks. And, oh, God, the one, and I can't remember the name of it, it's with Woody Strode and Richard Widmark. And, Woody Strode's in a ton of these.
Yeah.
But where he's the lead, and he's accused of raping a woman. Oh, God.
Oh, what is that?
Oh, all right, I'm looking it up while we're talking. But, yeah, I mean, he's...
Is it two rowed together? I just looked it up.
No, I don't think so.
No?
But I could be wrong. But hold on, Woody Strode. It's got like a colonel's name in the...
Sergeant Rutledge?
Yeah, Sergeant Rutledge. There we go. Sergeant Rutledge.
I've never seen that one.
Pretty cool movie, man. Yeah.
That seems great.
Yeah, and especially Woody Strode is a really interesting actor, and that's a movie where he actually does get to do more than be stoic and stand next to John Wayne. Pompey, of course, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, where he's Pompey. So that's black and white doesn't really illustrate the palette that you're describing and stuff. But yeah, if you look at searchers and stuff like that, you can. I think you can see the links there. And also, I like Hannah's very individual style as well. This is an indie style as far as the art, and it still fits the book and everything. And that was a staple of Thrilling Adventure Hour as well. The genres that you guys chose. I think you got very interesting artists to represent your characters in comic form.
Yeah, we didn't want this book or the Thrilling books for that matter to look like everything else on the shelves. We didn't want it to look like anything you might pick up from Marvel and DC, who have a ton of amazing artists.
Sure.
But I like the indie feel that Hannah brought to this. I also like the sort of, it was important to us and to her that the characters not all be beautiful. They're not superheroes. We had to sort of ground it in the reality of rough people living in rough times.
Sure.
I think she really did that.
No, I think that's smart, and I think you see that in the art. Do you and Ben now feel comfortable enough to bring Andrew along as far as, comic book writing and stuff? Have you cracked the code on the basics of the craft?
Yeah, we did. It was interesting, working with someone who had never written comics before, how much we had sort of internalized over the past few years, whereas when we started, we were in the same boat he was.
Sure.
Writing a script where two things happen in one panel. You just can't do that. Or sort of putting interior feelings in the script pages when, obviously a comic book is purely visual. You can't convey that. You don't have actors acting. You can feel one thing per panel. So yeah, it was interesting sort of breaking the story with him and figuring out how much story you can tell in 22 pages versus an hour-long television script. And this also was, Death Be Damned was by design meant to be a very simple, straightforward story. Because again, it's sort of bearing the weight of the metaphysical aspects as well. We wanted the plot itself to be very straightforward.
Gotcha.
Like I think the best Westerns are.
Agreed. Absolutely. How's it been? I mean, I'm looking now on your Comixology page at your bibliography, your comics bibliography. And
how are we doing?
I think you're doing. I think you're doing fine. And I mean, you've got to play with some pretty fun characters and stuff. And I want to talk about some of these Beyond Death Be Damned and everything, like your Flash Gordon stuff. How was that?
For me, it was tremendously easy because I was mostly working on something else while Ben mostly worked on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We kind of broke the story together, and then I can't remember what else we were working on at the time, but he had a good handle on it, so I said, go ahead and do the first draft of it. And to tell the truth, I barely looked at it. I only saw the finished book, which I think came out really well.
I agree with you. Okay, well that's that. Well, maybe I got to get Acker on then to talk about Flash Gordon.
That's right.
Was he the big Flash fan of the two of you?
Yeah, he really has a fondness for that stuff. I think going back to his youth, as does Heath, who he teamed up with on the second Flash
book
that he did. Yeah, I'm less familiar with that stuff. My frame of reference ends like 1965, then picks up again like 1985.
I can, that's okay. I mean, honestly, that's the good stuff. That's all right, man.
I think so.
I mean, really, the King Comics stuff I thought was really exceptional that Al Williamson briefly got to do. And I like his movie adaptation better than the movie itself. I got to be honest, being a little bit. I was a teenager when the movie came out. I think I was a teenager. Either that or I was, because it was the 35th anniversary. I got to do the math. I was a teenager still, and so I wasn't as crazy about it as people younger than me, and I appreciate a lot of the good stuff about the movie, and there is a lot of good stuff about the movie, but that. It was just part of that whole kind of still cheesy hangover of, these movies should be goofy rather than let's try and make something like really, really cool.
Sure.
And you know, again, it in a lot of ways did try to adapt what the greats before had, you know, Alex Raymond and you know, gave to the original strip. But you know, yeah, it's goofy at the end of the day. What can you say? You know, I mean, Timothy Dalton's certainly pretty cool in it. You know, and does a good Prince Baron and everything. But yeah, I like kind of your more traditional, and I really like what Dynamite has been doing with Flash.
Too. Me too. I'm eager to kind of to read more of it now that we're not involved with it, because I like the way they're exploring all of the King's stuff.
I would agree. Yeah, definitely Mandrake and the Phantom, and you know, yeah, no, I agree with that. What? Tell me about your run on Deadpool. On Deadpool.
Yeah, we've done a couple of minis, I guess, or stories here and there. We had Deadpool versus Gambit last year, which was so much fun to do. You know, that was pitched to us. I think, you know, we were sort of late additions to it. Everything was sort of packaged already when it came to us. But look, we were lucky to get the call and happy to get the call. Who was your artist on that one? Who was our artist on that one?
I'm bringing it up. Don't worry.
Look, 6 months past, you forget this stuff.
I understand. Danilo Beyruth.
Yeah.
Who's also been doing Gwenpool.
He did some cool stuff on it. There's a fight sequence in the first issue that I think is some of the best stuff, and is worth reading the collection for that alone. But Jordan White came to us and said, Deadpool versus Gambit, it's a con story. Do you guys want to do that? And we're like, yeah, we would love to sink our teeth into that. You know, that the crime stuff is something that really appeals to us, and you know, we've sort of dipped a toe in that water in the past. So to get to do it in a superhero world was really fun, and pull out some old characters, and you know, getting to use Fat Cobra from Fraction's run.
The Iron Fist character. Yeah.
Yeah. So silly. And, you know, because it's Deadpool, you get to make jokes. Because it's Gambit, it gets to be sort of a big sort of adventure romantic story. And, you know, Gambit's a funny character because he takes himself very seriously. And Deadpool is a character who doesn't take himself seriously at all. So putting them together, we thought was really funny.
No, absolutely. Those guys rub each other the wrong way. I think that's a good team up, good pair up as far as the fight goes, and then coming at it from different angles. Absolutely, man.
I think there's something really cool. I mean, look, Deadpool's such a silly character. I'm glad he's as popular as he is. I wish he were a little less popular so I could write more of the book. But like teaming him up with almost anyone in the Marvel universe leads to something funny, because he's got such a strong personality, as do pretty much every Marvel character, you know, so you're going to get something funny or scary or exciting out of any team up. So I would love to do more of that stuff, and we're talking to Jordan White and the folks at Marvel about doing that. Hopefully something will come through.
That's great, man. Tell me about working on the Thunderbolts and working on a big team versus a book where, you know, the focus is on one or two characters.
It was really interesting. I mean, this is a few years ago now, and Charles Soule had just left Thunderbolts, and we were brought in to sort of wrap up his run, and then we were supposed to start a new run, but they canceled the book because of some event that was going on. But man, oh man, did we have a good pitch for what the Thunderbolts could have been.
Oh, that's too bad, man.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting dynamic. You know, we inherited a bunch of visually interesting characters who, it feels like sort of cold toughness was the thing that all of them had. So the task for us became, how do we dismantle the team? How do we put these characters who really don't like each other? What's the trigger for really setting them against each other? And it turned out the answer was one and the same, and it was to piss off the Punisher. and let him dismantle the team. So then it became kind of what happens when we put the Punisher up against each of these characters that he's on the team with, and he knows intimately, and we can't really kill anyone, although we did kill Ghost Rider, but he comes back all the time.
Sure.
We can't really kill anyone, so how do we sort of get them out of the picture as we move through? And I think it came out pretty well. There's some cool stuff in there. I think the fight with Ghost Rider is one of my favorite things we've done. It's a character, again, that visually is so interesting, and such like any fight with Ghost Rider is cool if you have a great artist, and we had a number of really good artists on that book.
That's cool. Again, I'm looking at the trades, and unfortunately, it's incredibly small print, but because it's the cover very reduced. This was the all red Thunderbolts team, right? You had Red Hulk, you had Elektra, Punisher, Deadpool, Ghost Rider, like you said. Yeah. Was Venom on your team or no?
I think he was out. If he was,
Before
he was out pretty early. I think he'd gone to Guardians of the Galaxy by then.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like Matteo Lolli, Carlo Barberi. I mean, we had such great artists that like giving each of them something cool to do. And then there was the Punisher Elektra sort of love story that Charles had set up.
Yes. I remember reading that. Go on.
That we get to pay off, really. I mean, like, we asked ourselves, what's the emotional hook of this? And we knew it was going to come down to Punisher and Elektra facing each other, and what happens to these people who have gotten intimate over the course of their time on the team, but who are ultimately loners, and again, really sort of cold, unironic people.
Sure.
What do you do when you set them against each other after they've been with each other? So that was a neat thing to explore as much as we could, anyway.
That's excellent. And yeah, the arc is called Punisher versus the Thunderbolts, if you're looking for it. And it's volume 5, although, as we know, volumes and Marvel. Good luck. Sure. But I would look for Punisher versus the Thunderbolts if people listening want to check out what the Bens had to say about the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, look, they're all on Amazon. Deadpool versus Gambit, Punisher versus Thunderbolts, Alien versus Predator. They're all the People versus Larry Flint. They're all on Amazon. You can get them.
Did you do an Aliens versus Predator story?
No, I would love to do an Alien story.
I was going to say, wait a minute, that's not on there. Okay.
I'm going to do a Larry Flint versus OJ comic.
Given that they've both faced the People.
Exactly.
So
the People won both times, I think. I don't know. I guess they beat the People both times.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, OJ's sitting in a cell right now, so, I mean, obviously after the fact. But, yeah. And then, I don't know. And poor Larry Flint, I mean, he doesn't have, he is still in a chair, so I don't know I think it's kind of a draw at the end of the day. So, I know, cruel. But, no, I was in, when you said that, I'm like, wait a minute, because I know they've been doing a lot of Alien and Predator books lately. I'm like, did he do that? No, of course not.
I wish.
Well, let me ask.
I would love to get my hands on that stuff. I mean, there are a handful of, like, either movie franchises that are being made into really good comics. I don't know if you're reading the current Alien comic from Dark Horse, but it's really good. I can't remember who's writing it, but he's doing a great job, and the art is great, too.
Well, I know that once they kind of got a new direction to go in with the new movies and stuff, that Dark Horse has really upped their game. And I do think that they have people like Kelly Sue writing it and stuff, and I don't know currently who's writing Alien, but they're putting excellent people on it. And don't you think as well, as someone that does have their feet in both scripted live action and also comics, I really think the comic companies are really making a serious effort, no matter what. Even the Charmed comic book is getting like, hey, let's get this right for Charmed fans. I mean, God, the Farscape comic book was good at Boom, to give one example. I mean, that's the thing. I really do think that all of them are making a serious effort to make the comics as much as they can like the television or film products.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. They really have stepped up the quality on a lot of those licensed things. I think it's for two reasons. One is you have, people who are fans of those IP writing the comics now. The people writing the comics are Aliens fans. The people writing the Star Wars comics, we know, are huge Star Wars fans. I think the other thing is, I think the turning point, and tell me if I'm wrong, you know more about this than I do, but was the Buffy Season 7 comic. I think that really changed the way people look at these licensed characters.
No, I would agree. I think that's a really great example. And again, the idea, and they did this with the Alien and Predator comics at Dark Horse as well, is really organize a writer's room and have a very serious direction to go in and stuff. And obviously Whedon did that with the Buffy comic. And I think you're 100% right. It's interesting. I don't know if you had a chance to read this past summer, those 2 Star Trek oral history books that came out that really looked at the franchise. Well, because as you say, in the good cases, they have people who are fans of the franchise writing on the stuff. It blew my mind how at Star Trek, they didn't want fans, especially when the Next Generation started, they didn't want fans writing for the series. They really wanted, they kind of, Ron Moore was kind of made fun of when he was a rookie writer as being this Star Trek nerd. And it's you want someone that knows the universe and really is thinking about those things?
Well, it's an interesting thing, right? I mean, I can see where they're coming from theoretically. And on the Writers Panel podcast, I've talked to Brandon Braga a couple of times. And some of the other Trek writers of that era. And you can understand where they would want people who are a clean slate for Star Trek, right? They want people to come in and sort of bring fresh ideas that are not tethered to the very weighty history of the franchise.
Understood.
That said, that there has to be a balance. I mean, you want to get people who are also excited about the franchise and that history. I feel like there's a happy medium to be found. And I know on Star Trek Discovery, that who knows when it'll be out, but when they were putting together a writer's room, they were only looking for Star Trek fans. So I'll be curious to see how that's different from the stuff that came before.
Not to mention that, they've switched showrunners, and I understand that Brian Fuller's scripts are still going to be, the scripts they use and everything. But yeah, it will be interesting. I've said this before on the podcast. It could be, Star Trek Klingon latrine cleaning, and I'd be like, great. When's the first episode? I'm there.
Well, I have a confession to make to you. I know nothing about Star Trek. I have never seen an episode of Star Trek. I saw the J.J. Abrams movie, and that was plenty for me.
I can appreciate that if you're not a fan, sure.
It just never. I never took to it. But that said, I'm curious about the oral histories that you mentioned. Are they real, behind the scenes of making of the shows?
Yeah, they're incredible. Honestly,
I'm into that.
Well, honestly, that's one of the reasons why I asked, because it's just they agonize. Like on Next Generation, they had an episode early on that Spock's father was on. And he was kind of the focus point of the story, and they really agonized because they really wanted Next Generation to be its own thing, but then they wanted to have Spock's father. How much do we talk about Spock in the episode? And they agonized over it. Oh, and again, it was weird with the last couple television series, especially Enterprise, the final series, the Scott Bakula one. It was, they were looking for original ideas, but they had done, 600 scripted hours of the other shows by the time they got to Enterprise, literally that many hours. And finally they leaned into the mythos and said, well, no, let's do stories about all the different alien races and really embrace, see what we can do in terms of with nods to what's come before. I get it, because you don't want to be subjected to rules that might have applied back in the 60s that don't need to apply moving forward and stuff. I'm interested in your thoughts, though, on I would say then, definitely read those if you're interested. Get those books. I think it's called The 50-Year Mission, and there's 2 volumes.
Oh, yeah. That looks. I think it's even on my Amazon wish list, so I remember to pick it up later.
Yeah, there you go. So have you? Now, there are 2 new comic book related TV shows that debuted in the last couple of weeks, and Powerless and Legion last night, in fact. And I don't know if you had a chance to see either of those.
I watched the Legion pilot not too long ago, and I think it's great. Noah Hawley, he knows exactly what he's doing. I don't know. I'm sure you've watched Fargo, but both seasons were equally brilliant.
Yep.
So I really trust him to do anything he wants with this show.
It's very exciting. It really was for a pilot. I got to say, it was the unconventional way that they did it, and the ways they seem to have tied to whatever Fox is doing with the mutants and stuff. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real. It's the way he's able to juggle that continuity stuff, and again the history that can sort of weigh you down. He does such a light touch, but an effective touch on that stuff. And then look, he's a really amazing storyteller. We've seen it in Fargo. We've seen it. I don't know if you've read his novels, but they're really terrific.
No.
The guy knows his way around a story, and so it's really nice stepping into a pilot, especially, which are so hard, where you feel like the storyteller is so confident.
I agree with you, man. Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned pilot, and while you were answering too, it occurred to me on Netflix. Quickly back to Star Trek. Are you aware of this documentary, that Chaos on the Bridge?
I have heard of this. I heard it's great too.
Yeah, that's another one that, given what you investigate when you have TV writers on and stuff, I really think you'll find that really, really interesting.
Oh, nice. So, I'll totally check that out. That's
absolutely,
cool.
Man.
Yeah, look, I'll watch any behind-the-scenes thing. I'll read any making-of book. I love that stuff.
Have you? So you haven't had a chance to see Powerless yet?
I haven't watched Powerless. I saw the original pilot before they did reshoots on it, and it was really good. Ben Queen was behind that version of it. Ben is a great writer and a great guy. Ben since left, and it was taken over by Patrick Schumacher and his partner, whose name I just blanked on, who are also terrific writers and very funny guys. But I have not seen it yet. Patrick did invite me to the set to come hang out and see what they were doing, and man, it looks so good. I can say that from being in the offices, being in Alan Tudyk's character's office, and funny. Like the little touches they have everywhere. Like these are comic book nerds making this show, and it really shows. It's super fun. And Vanessa Hudgens is a star. Like she has this amazing, I hesitate to say Mary Tyler Moore quality, but she has a lot of similar qualities to Mary Tyler Moore in that you love her immediately. She just has this real star power. And then they've got this amazing, very funny supporting cast around them. I can't wait to see it. I just haven't had a chance yet.
No, and I agree with what you're saying about Vanessa. No, she does. She's got that. It's that whole the camera makes you love these people. I mean, it's just the way that they're photographed. They've got this kind of it quality and everything. And Alan Tudyk, you forget how funny he is because he can really do great serious work as well. And I'm an idiot. 10 years later, I'm like, oh, he's Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball. Which is such a nothing role, but it's like, and is it Death at a Funeral or whatever, the British
I never
version of that story?
Yeah.
He's great in that. What's that?
I didn't realize he was in that. He's a guy he's been a secret weapon for years and years, I think. He just steals any scene that he's in because he's such a dynamic actor and he commits so hard to a character. We had him on the Thrilling Adventure Hour in the stage show a bunch of times. He's on the podcast. And he did the concert film with us when we finally shot the show. And cool. We did our musical episode. And Alan comes in at the end as a robot player piano who has learned who's learned how to love. And I will never forget, in rehearsal, he was such a sport. He has like literally 3 minutes of screen time. He stayed through the whole rehearsal. We were at Nathan Fillion's house doing it. He hung out for the whole rehearsal. And then when it's his time to be on, he puts on this crazy voice that sounds like a drunken, like, robot with an iron jaw. Like, you could see this character. And it was not what we were imagining at all, but we were like, oh my God, yes, that's it. Do that. That's amazing.
Well, he showed his robot chops again in Rogue One, obviously. And
that's right.
And I saw his name on the cast, and it really was, again, about midway through the movie, and I'm like, oh, that's Alan Tudyk. Okay, fine, good. He's great. And yeah, he was very, very funny. He did a tremendous job in Rogue One. And no, I love it, and I love the idea that it's kind of Bruce Wayne's cousin. I just that's terrific. I like Powerless. I have a good feeling, and also I appreciate, again, along with Legion, the unconventional approach to this stuff, and that now we're seeing more shows and also more films coming up that are taking chances.
Yeah, we're in an interesting time in the genre evolution, right? The genre sort of evolved much faster than other genres did, because that's the world we live in now. Is these things to evolve very quickly. But like when Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 and X-Men and X2 and even the first Avengers, or Iron Man, I guess, when these all came out, and we comic book fans got so excited because they were like comic books come to life. It's amazing that not even 10 years later, we're at a point where you can stretch the boundaries of what these shows are and make a comic book show that doesn't have to feel like a comic book come to life.
Yeah, I keep comparing it to the Western and the way the Western evolved. And that's why, as people were kind of getting itchy and kind of feeling like they were watching the same movie over and over again, especially if, in the case of maybe the Marvel movies, which I've liked them all, but I do hear the people that say, okay, it looks like the same rope trick, time and time again. And then luckily, I think Ant-Man was a shift. Obviously, Deadpool was a shift at Fox. And what we're getting on TV, I think Powerless and Legion are great examples of that. And it, like you said, it has to be faster. But I do think that there's still so many places to go, and that's again why I think I was blown away by Legion last night, because it really did manage to be unconventional while still having a lot of the tropes in place.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, and this is something Acker and I have talked about quite a bit. It'll be interesting to see when, say, the Star Wars movies can sort of start pushing out the boundaries of what it means to be a Star Wars movie. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think
absolutely.
Rogue One may even be the beginning of it, where a lot of it really feels like a war movie in a great way.
Definitely.
And I think the comics are doing that a bit, and I think Ben and I have a Star Wars young adult novel coming out next month, and we were allowed to sort of, play with the Star Wars toys, set it in the Star Wars universe, but these aren't necessarily characters you've seen in the movies before. And nobody pushed back on that.
That's terrific. Hey, well, I even remember in the Dark Horse 90s years, Crimson Empire I thought was a terrific comic. And the Tales of the Sith and Tales of the Jedi and a lot of the anthologies moving forward and stuff would, clearly in the Star Wars universe, but with characters you just weren't, familiar with, and it still felt like Star Wars, and it was still something different.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of where this genre evolution begins. Is if you can push out the characters at first, and then start to build a movie that feels a little different around them. Like, how cool would a horror movie set in the Star Wars universe be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I the only one who wants to see that? Is that like an audience of one?
I was saying yeah.
I know, but nice. It's your show. You're a good host. You want to humor your guest.
Well, I'm not. No, not at all, man. The Thrilling Adventure Hour, which really put you guys on the map, and you had the live show, and as you say, the concert film and everything. Are you satisfied? Is that project over, or years from now might we see something else? And never say never. What do you think?
I do think never say never. We stopped doing the monthly show in 2015, frankly because it was a lot of work.
Sure.
And we wanted to do other projects. And honestly, Death Be Damned is one of those projects that we wanted to do. Then we spent last year kind of doing more live shows than we expected to do, having ended the monthly show. And so in December, we did what we said is our last show before an indefinite hiatus. And I think that is true. Like you say, never say never. We do love writing so many of these characters. We love working with our cast of, 12, 14 core actors. We love working with Jordan Katz, our musician, and his band. But again, there are other things we want to do, which is not to say we won't explore Thrilling Adventure Hour properties in other media. And it's something we're trying to push the ball forward on.
Okay, because, that was going to be my next question. Given the strength of a lot of the specific stories and stuff, I'm surprised that, somebody hasn't, an Adult Swim or somebody like that hasn't come to you guys and said, let's really commit and do, however many episodes.
John, nobody comes to us.
That sucks, man. Well, good for you. Hey, honestly, congratulations then, because you're doing exactly what we're all hoping to do, and that is make your own way. If they won't come to you, fine. You guys went out, you made something that you believed in, and you got that great group of people together to put it up and everything. And look at the body of live shows and podcasts and concert film that you were able to do, and also cultivate an audience that got behind you and put the money forward to make those things happen.
Yeah, we are proud of what we accomplished with Thrilling Adventure Hour. I mean, we did it for over 10 years, and it really was bigger than we could have imagined. And I think we didn't, you don't realize it when you're in it, just how much of a life of its own this thing has, because you're so busy making it and putting it together and getting everyone involved. But we're so lucky to have kind of grown this fan base who not only, are they really loyal, which we appreciate, but they're not stupid. We never had to talk down to them, and they trust us as storytellers, and I think will follow us. It's so nice when we get Thrilling Adventure fans saying they loved our Deadpool comic, or they loved Death Be Damned, or whatever other thing we're doing. That's immensely flattering, because it means they trust us as storytellers to bring them more of what we do that's not necessarily the same thing they've been seeing for 10 years. So,
sure.
That's been a really cool part of it. As far as the Hollywood of it, we took a run at doing a Beyond Belief TV show. It kind of fell apart. It doesn't look good for that version of it ever existing. But again, never say never.
Okay.
We had, through Image, we put out 2 4-issue miniseries, one for Sparks Nevada, one for Beyond Belief. Last year, it was an okay experience. Unfortunately, Phil Hester, who was doing our art on Beyond Belief, got sick and was unable to complete all 4 issues of Beyond Belief in the time that Image wanted. So they wound up dropping us, which was really disappointing, but we weren't about to replace Phil. We really, we like him a lot. We love what he was bringing to the book. But 2, it didn't seem fair to us. Like, this poor guy gets sick, and we're not going to drop him from the book. Luckily, we were able to put out issue 4 as a digital comic eventually. So all of those issues are available. They're out there. I think it's on our website. And we're talking now about how to put together collected editions of both Sparks and Beyond Belief, as well as new material for both of those. And so we'll you and I will have another phone call when that actually happens.
That's awesome. That's great, man. And I agree, man. Yeah, and Phil, Phil's a genius, and B, he's a great guy. Or maybe it's A and A, A and 1. one and 1A. But yeah,
great artist,
so no, I don't.
great guy.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man, and I'm excited to hear that there might be new stuff coming up along with collected editions of both. So that's very, very cool. Excellent, man. What do you think of what's exciting you right now on television? That's always a big question that I got for you.
Legion was the big one. I'm really excited about that. What am I watching right now? Top Chef.
Hey, man, I got my Food Channel shows. I understand.
I seriously, I love Top Chef. I love I admire any reality show where it's about people doing their best work, and Top Chef really is that. I don't watch Project Runway, but I like the idea of it. I'm sure, like anyone, I really am just watching the news lately.
Yeah, I know.
It's all I really can do, and then if I have to turn it off, I turn it off and we'll read a comic. But we do, my wife and I do have, in the evenings, we'll watch the comedy news. We'll see what Seth Meyers had to say the night before.
Sure.
I've been watching him now almost for a year, and he's been doing amazing work in his monologue, which isn't even a monologue, but his sort of desk pieces.
The closer look when he does the closer look. Yeah, no, it's great. It's absolutely
really
great.
Smart stuff. And Samantha Bee is just the best there is. I mean,
no lie, man. Exactly. It's everyone misses Jon Stewart, but luckily I think her show is great. I think what Seth Meyers is doing when he does closer look. John Oliver's coming back in a few days, so I think we're all kind of relieved that that's happening and stuff. And I have to be honest. I like Trevor Noah, and the Daily Show continues to do a really good stuff, but there is something missing. You can't. I mean, honestly, I'm a boxing guy, and it's kind of the same problem Larry Holmes had after following Muhammad Ali. When you have somebody that great. And really, again, I mean, Larry Holmes, you got to, I mean, if you're a diehard boxing fan, he belongs on pretty much every top 10 all-time great heavyweight list. But you couldn't tell him that at the time in 1982 when people are like, this is really boring. I miss Ali. And I wouldn't go that far with Trevor Noah, but something's missing. Something is missing.
I think the difference to me is something we got from Jon Stewart that we really want and need right now, and that Samantha Bee is doing, is this righteous anger. She's angry. She's enraged like the rest of us are. And
sure,
from Trevor Noah and from John Oliver too, who I really like, we're getting a sort of distanced disbelief. And maybe it's because they're not American or not American.
Possibly. Right, yeah.
That they do have a little bit of distance, and I think they're both really, their comedy is really right on. Their takes on the news stories are really astute and really smart. But I want to see something more emotional, which is what we got from Stewart, which is what we got from Colbert when he was on the Colbert Report, and it's what we get from Sam Bee right now.
I would agree with that. And by the way, I love what Colbert has morphed into on CBS, and I'm really glad that it seems like CBS is content that he may not get the Fallon numbers or even the Kimmel numbers, but they've got a much more they got a different show, and I think it's a smart show, and I think they like having the smart show.
I think you're right, and I think they're smart to recognize. Look, the Letterman show really became great when they let Letterman be Letterman. And to let Colbert be Colbert, that's the strongest the show is going to be. And I think he's doing great work. So the comedy news is the stuff I'm watching in addition to the real news. I will say I never miss an episode of Supergirl.
I was going to get to the CW shows. I agree with you. I think this season has only gotten better, and I'm a huge Legion of Superheroes fan, so the fact that Monel, their version of Monel, is popping around and stuff, I was excited from day one, and I love what they're doing with the character.
I think, the storytelling is really fun. They're doing the interpersonal stuff is great. it all rests on Melissa Benoist's shoulders, and she's just so winning. Every scene she's in with another character makes that character come alive, and that is no small feat for an actor. So the show is just utterly charming. I really love it. I thought I would miss Ally McBeal, but I don't. What's her name? Calista Flockhart.
Calista Flockhart, yes, as Cat Grant, and I agree.
That was a great dynamic at the center of the show. But
definitely.
They've done a nice job sort of filling that in, and I think Mon-El actually fills that hole in a nice way where they get to bicker, but for them they also get to be sort of love interests, and there's great stuff going on that show.
Yeah. What did you think of the crossover with the other CW shows?
Look, as a comic book fan, it's just exciting to see that happen. To me, the best episode of Supergirl was still the Flash crossover in the first season.
Oh, definitely.
Neither show has ever been as good as that was, because there was something electric about that and the way they played off of each other. And to get to see that with a bunch of these other characters, it was really fun. I will say this. I'm so sick of, and I'm saying this to every superhero movie, to every superhero TV show, I'm so sick of seeing superheroes fight in warehouses. I understand you are on a television budget, but come on. Even the Captain America Civil War, they fought in an airfield. And look, it was a great fight. There was so much cool stuff in it, but ultimately, it's just in an airfield. Give me something a little more exciting.
That's hilarious. It's funny. The Highlander, Adrian Paul, has been going around the world and is doing these kind of fun experiences, especially if you're like a Highlander fan or a Dungeons and Dragon person, where it's like a day or 2 days, and in Europe they're in front of these beautiful castles, but he kind of shows you sword technique, and they end up at the end, I think, videotaping or filming, I'm not really sure which, digital film, a fight sequence. And in some of these European locations, like I said, they're fighting it, in front of a castle or on a beach somewhere with beautiful structures or whatever. And they came to Chicago and they filmed in a warehouse.
Oh, come on. Why are you even in Chicago?
They made it, I know. They made it in, well, I don't know how you get a permit to fight in front of the water tower or something like that. But they had a warehouse, and I guess they outfitted it to look like a scene from Highlander, which of course would be a fight scene in a warehouse. So there you go.
That's hilarious.
You're killing me, man. That's great. I agree with you in terms of Flash and Supergirl, their chemistry. I loved during the crossover. I had a friend who was like, they introduced Superman at the beginning of this season. He should be in this crossover too. And I didn't think so. And further, I loved how they've really managed to. Supergirl is her own hero, and enough also of a physical or super-powered threat as Superman would ever be. And I kind of like that. No, I'm like it's her show, and she should be the most dangerous or the most powerful hero of these groups of CW heroes and stuff. And hey man, I could be. I like to think of myself as a liberal, but I can be as piggish as the next meat and potatoes guy and go, yeah, I'd rather see guys fight, thank you. But no, honestly, that said, she's great, like you said, and she's so winning. Great adjective for her. But also, yeah, I buy her as a legitimate threat.
Yeah, absolutely. They've done such a smart job building her up in the world and building the world around her that you buy her as a thing. The other fun thing about that crossover is it felt like it did that thing when, you're reading these big crossover comics at 11 years old going, how come Green Arrow is in the same fight as Supergirl? What does he bring to it? And they absolutely showed what he brings to it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I also like everyone kind of turning against Barry and Ollie being the guy that kind of stands up and is like, no, wait a minute. And yeah, it's I think for older, crustier comic book fans, there's that feeling that Arrow is pretty much just, a poor man's Batman. But I do think that the producers and Steve Amell and everything have managed to, make it its own thing. And again, nothing but really great comic book people behind all these shows. You know, I love it, and I know Kreisberg and Guggenheim and Berlanti's credentials and stuff, and it shows on the screen.
Yeah, 100%. And even, I mean, most of the writers are real comic book nerds, and I think what they're really good at on all of the shows, and I watch most of them fairly regularly, is they never lose sight of the emotional story, and you know that's what a good, not just comic book show, but good TV show and a good story has, is that emotional hook, and they always do that really well.
Definitely. I'm assuming you loved Westworld.
I watched Westworld.
Oh, talk to me. I like that. No, please.
I thought Westworld was fascinating. I'm either too smart for it or too dumb for it. I can't figure it out. But I thought it was an absolutely fascinating experience in television. I did not follow along with all of the conspiracies and theories and things. So I really kind of watched it over a weekend once it was over. And there was so much interesting stuff in it that I could not turn it off. But I don't know, and I'm going to watch another season, and I thought the finale was fantastic, and I thought the pilot was fantastic, but I don't know what happened in that show.
Well, I loved that.
And look, that's not a bad thing.
Well, for a show that has at its core a mystery, I think that is a good thing, and I think we should have things left unanswered. And I agree. I didn't follow all the conspiracy theories that bloggers and you know, people writing and podcasting might have thought about it. Didn't bother me. The one observation that really made me laugh, and it didn't occur to me as I was watching it, but it was Kate McKinnon on Saturday Night Live when she was supposed to be Angela Merkel. And she's like, yeah, what is this with this Westworld? Man, that was nihilistic for me, and I'm German. And I was crying when she said that. And I'm like, yeah, man, it was an incredible downer.
It's so true. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was an interesting thing. I feel like I experienced it more than I watched it.
Sure.
Like that there was a mystery in it, or a series of mysteries in it, I guess, but I didn't know the questions I should be asking to have things answered. They were just kind of answering questions that I didn't know I should have, if that makes sense. And again,
it does. Yeah.
Maybe it's over my head, or listen, I don't know. Honestly, I'm glad I watched it. I can't wait to watch more of it. The actors were phenomenal on it. They elevated even some of the clunkier stuff that happened. And also they spent a lot of money on that show, and it really shows. It looks really good.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh Jesus, yeah. And that's another question. That's another question that I have regarding where TV is currently now. All the different platforms. Is there any word industry-wise, Ben, if like some of these things are going to go away? Because while it's an embarrassment of riches in terms of how many great things are being made right now, so many different platforms. I only have Netflix and Amazon Prime. So the stuff that's happening on Hulu, I don't get to see. The stuff that's happening even on some premium channels that aren't widely distributed, like Epix. It sounds like it has a couple really neat shows. I don't get Epix on my system. Audience, the Fox network. I hear a lot of great shows are on there. I don't get Audience and stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, are they waiting out the a la carte future that it seems like we're heading towards, or are some of these things, do you think, going to blow up before within the next 3 years or so?
I do think there are a handful that are struggling, but none of the ones you name. I mean, all of those have money behind them, or they're partners with some other channel that can basically keep the lights on for them. I think there are some sort of platforms that are startups that took a stab at scripted programming that may or may not be around in a couple of years. But I think you're right to say that we're headed towards this a la carte sort of watch what you want format. and both TVs and smart TVs and then Apple TV and stuff like it are only going to make that easier. And that's great. Like I don't know about you, but I don't watch I watch very few network shows. And when I do watch them, I don't watch them when they're on. And if I even watch them on my TV, I'm not necessarily watching them from my DVR. I'm watching them from Hulu or something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I don't know. Look, I'm just happy that all the opportunities are out there. It makes selling a lot more exciting.
Sure. That's cool. I mean, and how's that going? How is that going for you guys? You're saying, what's anything on the horizon?
Nothing I can talk about. We're sort of circling the horses and seeing what we can do this year. It's kind of, like I say, it's an exciting time because there are so many outlets. There are so many platforms to sell to. And again, I talk about this on the writers panel all the time, that if you have that crazy idea that you absolutely want to do, that you are super passionate about, which Ben and I have a few of those, there's an outlet for it. And where there wasn't 5 or 6 years ago, there's maybe only one outlet for it, whereas 5 or 6 years ago, you could go to 4 different places with one idea, but that idea was a little more mainstream, and what you couldn't be quite as out there. So, we have a few things that we really would love to get off the ground. We'll see if we can. The selling season doesn't really begin until summer, so we've got a good 4 or 5 months to kind of pull it together, package these things, because you have to have a package now, and then get out there on the market with them.
That's cool. What? Tell me about the television conference that they have in Austin. Is it ATX?
ATX, yeah, it is. It is the most fun. It is the way they describe it is it's the convention or the festival for people who are fans of DVD extras, and it is it's 100% that. I'm on their advisory board. I've been part of the festival from the very first year. They're going into their 6th year, I believe, and I've seen them grow into this really a force in the industry, which is fascinating. Where they started with maybe 1,000 people attending. They've had upwards of 4 or 5 in the past few years.
That's great.
But yeah, it really is. I mean, that DVD extras thing is absolutely true. They do cast reunions. They did Gilmore Girls last year. They're doing Designing Women this year. That's been announced.
Wow.
A couple of things this year. Yeah, it's cool. And then it's the kind of festival where it's as much fun for industry folks as it is for fans. I've gotten to meet a lot of people whom I admire, Noah Hawley among them there, but with David Hudgens and a bunch of other writers who I really like. It's the kind of place where as many people will pile into a conference room to hear a bunch of writers talk as they will to see a bunch of TV stars. And that's so unusual and really a cool thing. These are the people who attend, both the badge holders and the industry people who go are real fans of television, and they want to talk about television and what television is doing and where it's going and where it's been. It's an exciting thing. People should go. It's atxfestival.com. It's in Austin in the second week of June every year, or around the second week of June every year.
Well, you guys have released panels on the writers panel from ATX and everything, and I've loved hearing them. And some of the wasn't it the Phil Rosenthal interviewing Jim Brooks?
Oh, how great was that?
Oh my God! I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, if you're obviously we're all television fans, and I would say to the Word Balloon audience, if you're really not hip to the ATX, look for these panels, because they're as good as any great comic convention panel. And, you get, like, Phil Rosenthal interviewing Jim Brooks about all the great shows that he was involved with and films. And, one of the great comic geniuses of our time, and, from The Simpsons to Mary Tyler Moore and the like. So, you'll really find stuff that you like at ATX. So at least find that content, if not go to the actual convention. Definitely.
Yeah, I've put out, over the course of the year, they let me put out all the panels that they record and that I record. So they're out on the Writers Panel, which is on iTunes, which is on the Nerdist website and network. So, yeah, people can find those. And there are so many good ones. I got to do a comics panel this year, or a comics to TV panel this year at ATX. With Bendis and Javi Grillo-Marxuach and Rosemary, what is her name? I can't remember her name. She was a director for Jessica Jones.
Okay.
And it was a really fun conversation. Bendis is, he gives a good panel.
Definitely. Absolutely. Javier's a really great guy, too. I haven't had a chance to have him on the show, but I met him in New York. Loeb introduced me to him. And, nice. Great stuff. And now I'm blanking on his wonderful ABC Family show that was based on his comic.
The Middleman.
Middleman, of course.
ATX this year is doing a Middleman reunion with Javi and Natalie Morales, and I think a couple of the other actors. But at the very least, Javi will be there and Natalie will be there. I think they're going to screen an episode and do a little chat. Should be really fun.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's one of those shows when they track down the history of comic book television. The Middleman should get its due because it was really a smart, funny show.
Yeah, so. And Javi has great stories about making that show and what they let him get away with and how much he learned. I mean, he was really very new in his career when he got to do that show. And he's been on my podcast a bunch, and he also has his own podcast with Jose Molina, where it's just the two of them talking about really doing a deep dive on things, various aspects of TV making, not just writing, but producing and pitching and really everything. Where Javi tells great stories about working on The Middleman and Lost and everything he's worked on.
That's awesome, man. I'm going to have to look for that. What do you know the name of it? Or
their show is called The Children of Tendu, Tendu.
I like it. That's cool. What do you got coming? I don't know. No, if it is, I don't remember it. Shame on me if it is a Star Trek reference.
They're both big Trek nerds, so I feel like it might be. But
that's very cool. What do you got coming up on the Writers Panel?
Man, a lot of cool stuff. I just put out an episode which people have been clamoring for with Eric Kripke, who was my boss on Supernatural,
cool.
And Sean Ryan together talking about their show Timeless. I have an episode that I really enjoyed. Brian Koppelman, who does the great podcast at the moment, but who is a longtime screenwriter. He wrote Ocean's 13 with his partner, David Levine. The two of them were on, and it's a great conversation. Brian and David are so thoughtful about what they do and about the business at large. They created Billions, and it was I really enjoyed having them on. Yeah, I don't know, a lot of fun stuff. I have Barbara Hall, who created Madam Secretary, but more pertinent to my interests, created Joan of Arcadia.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember that show? Did you watch that?
Of course. Yes, indeed. Amber Tamblyn, right?
Amber Tamblyn, yeah, Jason Ritter. It was a cool show. But Barbara Hall, I sat down with her when I was in New York back in November, and we had a great hour-long conversation. And she started out on in the Falsey Brand camp with Northern Exposure and I'll Fly Away. And so she had a lot of interesting things to say. But yeah, a lot of great guests coming up. I'm excited about the next few months of releases. I've done a lot of recording lately, and I've got some more ATX panels that'll be out too.
Excellent. That's great, man.
The Preacher folks, one with Sam Catlin and some of the cast members, I'll be putting that out, I think, in a couple weeks.
Very cool. That's awesome. I'll tell you, Madam Secretary literally is one of my network shows that I do watch because I think they do that kind of, West Wing sort of vibe show very well. And,
it's a smart show. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Hey, dude, you got a smart podcast, and I'm not being nice. It's the truth.
Oh.
And, well, we operate in the same world, only I'm on the comic side and you're on the TV side in terms of, getting into process and, the ideas behind the ideas and everything. And I think you do an excellent job getting that out of your guests. And I think they are encouraged and happy to have the forum to talk. And it interests me that we get a few things like the book Difficult Men that focused on all the different showrunners from The Sopranos to Breaking Bad, and you get that documentary that was made about showrunner producers. And I think finally writers are getting their due in terms of story and character. And the smart fans know those are the keepers of plot and character. So instead of going to David Boreanaz and ask him about Angel, you're really better to go to Tim Minear and Whedon and ask them about Angel. Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny, when I started doing the writers panel back in 2009, I want to say, were the first few. I think we've talked about this before, but I started it because it didn't exist already. If people were having these conversations with writers, I wouldn't have done it. I would have just listened to it. But no one was talking to writers back then, and it sort of made it easy for me to get guys like Vince Gilligan and Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse and sort of big names in writing at the time. Since then, as you say, there's been this explosion and a real interest in the people who make the things that we love. And look, I'm glad I listen to all of the writing podcasts, not just yours and mine, but a whole lot of them where people are talking to creators about the creative process. It really is endlessly fascinating to me. So, 300 plus episodes later, I'm going to keep having those conversations till they shut me down.
Attaboy. No, I'm glad you're out there, and I agree as far as the other great writer ones as well. And I'm glad that there's still room for you to, do comics and write television yourself and still do the podcast. I know, as someone who has to, juggle a full-time job and do this stuff, how tough it can be. So, is it? Do you? I know you give a lot of your proceeds to. And by the way, and I'll give you the chance to promote the writing program that you guys are behind. What's that? What is that charity? The proceeds from the live podcasts that I do, which are fewer and further between these days, go to 826 LA. But 826 is a national organization founded by Dave Eggers, originally in San Francisco, but now they're in every major city in the U.S. And they're basically a after-school teaching and tutoring program that encourages writing in kids, I think up to high school. They encourage writing and creativity. They really do a great job being sort of community centers where kids can come and express themselves creatively, primarily through writing. So people can go to 826la.org, 826valencia.org, 826boston.org, any number of these, 826 Chicago. They're all over the country, and people should really check them out, either to give or to volunteer, because they could always use help. Even if it's just tutoring, they can use help with that, but they could also use help with special programs, which they do a lot of, which are always really cool. They're worth checking out all their websites. That's excellent, man. Very, very cool. Yeah. Well, I will spring you because I'm sure you've got stuff to do. But the book is called Death Be Damned, and it's out of Boom Studios. First issue comes out next month.
It's out now.
Oh, it is out now. Excuse me.
Yep.
I'm looking on the Boom website, and it said issue 1 shipping March 2017, so I apologize if it's out. It's already out.
They're full of lies. Issue 1 is out now. Issue 2 is out March 15th. It's a 4-issue miniseries. I hope people will check it out. We're really proud of it, and it's something a little bit different from Acker and me. That's
awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you guys are stretching and playing in other genres as well, and keep up the good work, man, as both podcasting and writing. I'm always glad to have you back, and I look forward to another conversation because you've got a good ringside view of what's going on in TV, and I always appreciate your point of view. That's Ben Blacker, and that'll do it for this episode of Word Balloon. Thanks a lot for listening. I think I've got all my technical problems fixed. It's been a weird month. All of a sudden, my software that I record my Skype conversations with was getting hinky, and it's, of course, because Skype updated and the software didn't. The other software didn't, so there was a problem. And hopefully it's been fixed. And I'm very excited to be giving you new conversations in the next couple days. And we got great people coming up here on Word Balloon. Stay with us. Today's Word Balloon was brought to you by InStock Trades at InStockTrades.com. There are great deals happening now at InStockTrades.com. And the great thing is, if you order $50 or more, you'll receive free shipping. It's very easy to get up to $50 when you consider some of the great deals that they have going on. We could talk about some of the indie stuff that they've got going. I think I only talked about Seven to Eternity in the last break. Check out Eclipse from Zach Kaplan and Giovanni Timpano. This is a really neat book from Image. 42% off for the first volume. It's $5.79. Big ticket items. How about the War of Kings Aftermath Realm of Kings omnibus, featuring the work of Dan Abnett, Andy Lanning, great writers. This is the post-War of Kings event, Marvel Cosmic at its best. It's 50% off, $62.50. You can also get things like, let's see, we got some mainstream stuff here. Things like Green Lantern, trade paperback volume 8, Reflections, from Robert Venditti doing the writing. Billy Tan and others handling the art chores. It is 42% off, $9.85. You can get the New Avengers by Brian Bendis complete collection, Volume 2, New Avengers 11 through 25, and Giant Size Spider-Woman #1, New Avengers Annual, the Illuminati one-shot, and Civil War The Confession, all inside this collection of New Avenger stories from Brian Bendis. 42% off, $23.19. There's X-Men, The Extraordinary X-Men, Volume 3, Kingdoms Fall, featuring the work of Jeff Lemire and others. That is 42% off, $10.43. So there's some of the few books that are on sale right now at InStockTrades.com. There are, I'm sure, more coming up in the days ahead. But check it out. You'll find great books at great prices. InStockTrades.com. Thanks again for listening to Word Balloon today. More great stuff coming up. We've got plenty of February left to give you more entertainment, and that's the plan. Don't forget, next month I am in Utah at Salt Lake City for FanX. Really excited about that. My buddy Marty Pasco is going to be there. Marv Wolfman is going to be there. Agnes Grabowski is going to be there. A few others, and I will give you more details as I know what the hell I'm doing. But I put in for a couple panels, and I think the plan is for me to record those panels, so I can't wait to bring them to you. And it's going to be great to go to that part of the country if you are in the Salt Lake area or close enough. I do hope that you will come to FanX and give me a chance to say hello and thank you personally for listening to Word Balloon. As I said, thank you for the new members of the League of Word Balloon listeners who have joined up, and the existing members who have upped their subscription rates. Truly appreciate it at this time in my career, and doing what I can to keep the bucks coming in. But in the meantime, fear not, great Word Balloons on the way. Until next time, Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions. Copyright 2017.